Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Gluck from SBNation.com. Welcome back to AmpUp88.com, where you come every week to chat with a member of the 88 team and to amp up before the race. Just a reminder before we get started here, Junior Nation comes here because there's a couple cool things in addition to the video chat. One is there's a daily sweeps for a Dale Junior autographed item every single day. They give away a free autographed item, which is cool. There's an off-the-track video series. This week TJ Majors is talking in it. And then also you can follow TJ's Twitter feed right on the site there, so that's cool. And next week's chat, we're going to be chatting live with Scott Maxim, who's the manager of all the engine tuners for Hendrick. So that should be interesting if you have any questions about engines and how that all works. But right now, Mark Mauldin, pit crew coach for the 5 and 88 team, is here with us. And Mark, before we get started, I would like to know, how do you become a pit crew coach, or what's your background that leads you to that?
Well, it's a long 18-year story. We started back in 1992 with a Busch Grand National team. A friend of mine was a physician treating a driver that had an injury, and he wanted me to help him with his rehab. I have a background in strength and conditioning. So I rehabbed the driver. He said, "Hey, you're a big, strong guy. You won't be on a pit crew." So in '92, you couldn't get anybody to be on the pit crew. Go through the shop and find a big, strong guy that could jack a car or hang a tire, then you were on it. So I started learning how to carry tires back in '92, and eventually put me on the crew. And then I progressed from there to Randy LaJoy. We won 2 Busch Grand National Championships, and then Petty Enterprises hired me. So I was over the wall with Petty Enterprises for a good number of years, 8 years over there, and Richard asked me to oversee his pit crew operation. And then Mr. Hendrick talked with me and asked me to come down and help with the pit crew operations here at Hendrick Motorsports. So, you know, kind of got in through the back door like everybody does.
Yeah. Yep. Well, what if somebody's watching at home and I know a lot of people have questions about how they would, go about doing, being on a pit crew or joining a pit crew. What would they do?
Honestly, it's about being in the right place at the right time. We look at different aspects of a person's background. If he had an athletic background, that's a plus. If he's been in a pressure situation, that's a plus. And we have parameters that we look at for each of our individual positions. We don't want a 8-foot-tall jackman, because everything we do is at ground level. The car's here and not up here. So we have parameters that we look at, and then we have tests that we test guys. Our strength and conditioning coach, Mark Mauldin, runs test battery and checks their speed, lateral speed, and checks their strength and their flexibility. So it's run pretty much like any professional team would run it to select players for their team.
Right. Well, you talked about the pressure situation and selecting the players. Dances with Cat would like to know, how do you scout for people on the pit crew, and do you look for former athletes, and do you seek out those kind of people?
Yes and no. The thing about racing is a different animal altogether than stick and ball sports. The thing we do is look at a guy from, number one, we have what we call a dinner test. We find a guy that we like. Would you take this guy home and eat dinner with him? If he's a thug or a gangster, then no, we don't want to. He might be talented and have all the ability, but he has to be part of a team and has to work within a team environment. So that's the number one thing. Then we look at experience. Has he had any experience in racing? If not, then he goes through the test battery with our strength conditioning coach, and then if he passes and makes good grades on that, then we can look at him in a position as far as his physical stature. Would he be a good tire changer? Would he be a good jackman? And then we go from there.
So a lot of people are asking about the practices and how that goes. Dale Jr. Fan 50 wants to know, do the teams practice on the same day or different days, your 2 teams?
Yeah, we have a pretty regular schedule, and our practice time runs from Tuesday at 10 in the morning until 12:30. And what that encompasses is the 88 team goes first. I work with 5 and the 88.
Right.
88 team goes first at 10, and we have a scenario that we build on Monday. the procedure is we do our post-race analysis, video analysis on Monday, look at the things we did well, look at the things we need to work on, assess that, incorporate that into our upcoming race where we're going, correct mistakes, implement what we expect to see this week in Sonoma, and then we set our practice up according to that.
Yeah.
It's about a 30-minute practice, really. I mean, they compare us to being a preacher. You know, they see a preacher for an hour a week. Well, they think he just shows up at the racetrack. Well, we get accused of that too. But,
yeah.
you know, there's basically about 5 to 6 hours of work per week put into our pit stops.
So you talk about the video analysis that you guys do. What happens, you know, if there's a painful mistake? You know, sometimes I'm sure a mistake has cost some team a race, you know, along the years that you've been in it. Is it tough to go back and watch that, you know, and be like, oh, this is what we did wrong? But, you know, I guess you got to do it. But
you know, really, not really. The pain is when it happens. You know, you get the long look from the crew chief, and you get the driver on the radio saying, "You guys ever done this before?" You know.
Yeah.
So the most pain is at the racetrack. And then it's a relief to come back and look at the video and know that we're going to correct the error our very next practice.
Double D here as a question brings up a good point, because I've heard, I think just maybe it was even Michigan, the wall was really thin. I know Watkins Glen, you know, they pit the wrong way, or the other way, I guess.
Yeah, backwards.
Double D wants to know, what is the most difficult track for pit crews? Is there one that's more than another?
Any short track's tough.
Really?
Yeah, the boxes are small. Pit road's usually narrow. Getting to the pit box, there's a lot of congestion on it. The car never comes in straight. You know, say you have a pit box 30 feet long by 15 feet wide. It's tight getting the car around the car so that you can get back out on pit road. And we practice all that. Scenarios: parking close to the wall, nosing the car in, leaving the right rear out of the box, which is legal. Mm-hmm. So we practice all these difficult scenarios, but definitely short tracks are the toughest for us.
Somebody is asking, what we talked about mistakes before. How do you go about fixing a mistake that happens when you see someone do something, or if I don't know if it's something that happens over and over again or just a one-time thing, but how do you fix something?
That's a really good question. These guys are professionals, and most of our guys have been doing this for a minimum of 6 years. You know, some guys have been doing it for 10 years, and they're going to be harder on themselves than I can ever be. So it's basically my job to get them back up to a level playing field, get their mental abilities back right. You know, you forget about the bad ones and remember the good ones and go on, because they beat themselves up over and over this.
Right.
And it's not something that they haven't prepared for. It's a mental error or something out of the ordinary which we can't control. We can't do anything until the car's stopped. Car's coming around you, hits a tire, runs over a hose, what have you. We can't control that, but it does affect us. So basically keeping their mental aspect positive during a race is the hardest job.
Who is the most talented pit crew member that you've ever worked with? T. Burglar is asking this. Is there anyone in particular?
Golly. You know, it depends. It's relative. Back when I was doing it, when I started back in '92, you know, a 15-second pit stop, everybody was high-fiving. You do a 15-second pit stop now, you're getting the finger pointed at you and called on the box.
Really?
Yeah. It's difficult to say. I've worked with a lot of good guys, solid guys, and that's our philosophy. You know, we'd rather be solid than extra fast, because you live on the edge, you live with a sword, you die by the sword. So, you know, we've got a lot of consistent guys. I really can't put my finger on one of them. I've had a lot of them.
What makes a good, just wondering, what makes a good pit crew athlete? I mean, is it more about consistency than anything, or what? You know, if you're looking up and down pit road and you're wondering, and you're like, that guy's really good, that guy's really good, why are those people good?
Another great question. There's a lot of good pit crew people, especially in our series, you know, in the Sprint Cup series. The thing that differentiates the good ones from the very good ones from the good ones is they're able to handle adversity and keep going. A lot of times things happen during a pit stop nobody knows about except me. Crew chief, you know, we get him out in 13 seconds or under, everybody's happy. But there's a lot of things that influence that. You know, we could have had a tenth of a second more on a hand in with a wheel, or changer could have missed a lug nut, or car could have been out of position, or somebody stepped on a hose and didn't fall. And that's what brings the cream to the top, is not the ability. Everybody at our level has a lot of ability. It's how you handle the things that you don't expect, or the adverse situations.
Interesting. M. Schechter 24 wants to know, in your opinion, what are some of the best drills to practice for potential pit crew members? I guess maybe at home or something like that. What kinds of things, what kinds of muscles do you need to be in shape for that?
Well, a lot depends on what position that you're interested in trying out for. The core of the body is the most important part of what we do for stability. Everything has to work from the middle out. You know, if your body's moving, your hands are moving. If your hands are moving, it's hard to hit lug nuts with an impact gun running 8,000 RPMs. It's hard to set a jack on the right side with the car just stopping and hitting it at the same time it stops. So, you know, it depends on what position. You know, we have a battery of drills that we do in the off season. We practice 4 out of 5 days in the off season, and 3 of those days are drill days, and 1 day we just go to the car and actually do live stops. But yeah, we do a lot of drill work.
Dale Jr. Fan 50 is wondering, do you encourage your pit crew members to eat with a certain diet ratio, example 60-20-20?
Here again, I'm going to refer back into the day. You know, the pregame meal of choice was a hot dog and a Pepsi.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten to the point that we have a nutritionist on staff, and she designs what the guys eat up until race day, gives menus to our drivers, our truck drivers that prepare a lot of our meals. We had a caterer last year bring organic natural food in, and so it's real important. I mean, especially you got a 4-hour race in 100-degree heat. You know, hydration is very important, and keeping focus, and AMP helps us with that.
Beckbeat 555 is wondering about the 5 and 88 crews. You said they practice together. Do they train together? I mean, do they work well together? Is there a rivalry there? How does that work?
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's like a sibling rivalry. You know, you love your brother, but you want to beat him every chance you get, and you want to beat him more than anybody else a lot of times, but nobody else is going to beat him, and that's the way our two teams operate. We practice separately on Tuesdays because Tuesday is our film analysis day, and the 5 comes in at 9 o'clock, the 88 comes in at 9:30, the 88 goes back out at 10 and practices, the 5 comes out at 11:45. When the 88 is out in the practice box, the 5 is in the weight room doing their fitness training, and then when they come out, then the 88 goes into the weight room and does their fitness training. Then Wednesday we have an outside instructor. We have mixed martial arts, we have stability, we have yoga, and we have a swimming, water aerobics that the guys go to on Wednesday. So we do practice together, and it's set up. You know, the scenario's already set. There's a lot of friendly competition. You know, I can do better than that. You know, is that all you got?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. The guys enjoy it. And then we started practicing with some other teams. We practice with Stuart Haas occasionally, and we practice with Ganassi.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes we'll take on the 24-48, show them how to do it. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you guys show them how to get it done?
No, it's good. Yeah, sometimes they get us, sometimes we get them, but we really enjoy the competitive side. All these guys are competitive.
Yeah. Dances with Cat, who asked a question earlier, was wondering about the 48 and 24 teams. Do they also share a coach as well?
Yes, I don't work with them. We're in our 588 building, and then our neighbors 24-48 are in their building, and then they have their staff. And you know, we share a lot of things, and we do work together, but they have their philosophy, which varies just a little from ours. And you know, I'm not saying it's good, it's not saying it's bad, it's just a little different, but we share a lot of information and work together on a lot of things.
Okay. Fan number 88 says, do you get to go to the track every weekend?
For 18 years.
Yeah?
Yeah. Except for this year, I had some health problems. I don't know if you knew about Brian Vickers had some blood clots. Well, I had blood clots in my leg too.
Yeah.
There was 4 or 5 people in NASCAR this year that developed blood clots for whatever reason, and I don't know, but I'm over it now. I'm fine. You know, Doc took good care of me. But yeah, for 18 years I've been at the track. Seen a lot of change.
When did you have your problems?
Started noticing in January. Didn't have any visible symptoms. I trained with our guys in the weight room, and noticed I was kind of got out of breath easy, and then went to the doctor, and they thought it was asthma, which it wasn't. And then one of Mr. Hendrick's doctors down at CMC diagnosed it, sent me, got a CAT scan, and said, "Hey, bud, you better get these things taken care of." So,
wow, was that a big scare for you?
Not after being out on pit road.
What's the scariest moment you've had on pit road?
Myself, probably carrying tires. We were at Martinsville and coming around. I can't remember if I was on Kyle's car or Bobby Hamilton's car, but Jeff Bodine came around and ran over me.
Really?
Yeah, took me right off my feet. I had my back to him, and he came out of the box, and I was carrying rear tires, and he hit me in the back. I didn't know what hit me. Rolled over the hood, tore my bicep tendon off my shoulder. And
no kidding.
Yeah. And,
wow.
Yeah, and he didn't even come back and say he's sorry.
Have you ever gotten an apology?
The crew chief did.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Pit Crew Challenge was recently, and Dances with Cat wants to know, what do you do differently to prepare for that event?
That's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
It really is. There's, other than doing our normal things, you know, taking lug nuts off, putting lug nuts on, hanging wheels, jacking the car, pushing the cars, the whole thing. And you don't really, unless you have a penalty, you don't win the thing by doing good pit stops, because we do those all the time.
Yeah.
It's the car push. So we did prepare a little differently. We had a guy that we hired in the winter, Walt Smith from Ganassi Earnhardt, that came over. Walt's been good at that and won it several times. We didn't just hire him for that.
Yeah.
But he's been in the business, you know, a long time, and we work together really well on a lot of things, and that's Walt's baby.
Okay.
So he, you know, I'm second fiddle in that deal. He tells me what to do and I do it, but you have to prepare a lot differently for that.
Yeah. Well, right now we're halfway through our show already. This is Mark Mauldin. He's the pit crew coach for the 5 and 88 team. You're on ampupthe88.com, where you amp up before the race every week. And I know you have a halfway tradition you were telling me about at the racetrack. What is that?
Yeah, I look forward to it. You know, sometimes I cheat on my halfway tradition. I always have an amp halfway. And, you know, the thing a lot of people don't realize is there's actually two crews that go to the racetrack. The early mechanics, the crew chief, driver go and qualify the car, practice the car, and then they turn it over to us on Sunday. Once it's inspected on the racetrack, when the green flag drops, that's our car. Mm-hmm. So we fly in on race day on everything east of the Mississippi River, and you know, my alarm goes off at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning. So we generally fly out about 5 o'clock from Concord, get to the racetrack, depending on how far it is. Garage opens at 7. We're there setting our pit box up. So by 1 o'clock, everybody's a little bit tired. But what helps me, and about halfway through, I always start counting laps. I go have an amp. And I only drink half, and I save the other half as I need it on through the race. But I just drink the basic green amp, look forward to it, sometimes more than I should, because I cheat and go before halfway.
What if there's a rain delay and you can't quite get there?
Oh, then there's 2 amps.
Okay. What are your off-the-track hobbies? M. Schechter 24 wants to know.
Believe it or not, I'm a farmer masquerading as a pit crew coach.
Okay.
I grew up on our farm back in Salisbury, North Carolina, and we have 80 head of beef cattle. We raise Santa Gertrudis beef cows, and do a lot of grass-fed beef. You know, guys in the shop buy a lot of beef from us.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a neat deal. I hope in another few years I can do more of it.
Yeah. Brandon Barber is asking, how much positive feedback does Dale Jr. give to your guys on pit stops, both good and bad?
A lot.
Really?
A lot, and we really appreciate that. You know, I've been with drivers before that you could bang out a 12-second pit stop and gain him 5 spots, and you never hear a word. You bang out a 13 and lose him 1, and it's like, you guys, you know, don't you ever practice? But that's the thing I like about Dale Jr. If we do good, he lets us know, and if we don't do good, he lets you know about that too. So yeah, we're good with that.
Dale Jr. Fan 50. A lot of questions from Dale Jr. Fan 50. Way to go. Do you also coach the driver on how to get in and out of the pit box as far as strategy? You know, do you work with them and say, man, you could really help us out if you did this or whatever? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, there's a lot of give and take. I mean, we can't actually do anything until the car's stopped. Mm-hmm. And the position of the car is very important. If he's too close to the wall, we can't get the left side up in one pump with the jack like we like. There's no room to work. If he's far wide, say at California where the boxes are so big and we have to run a mile to get to the car, it slows the pit stop down, because time off the racetrack is time lost. So Dale Jr. comes in the off season some and works with us, you know, drives the car, our pit practice car, and we work with him some. But the nice part about it is Lance gives him constant feedback. There's a car going to be stopping in front of you, stop a little short, and we move the sign, the pit sign, back. Or you need to stop a little long. You know, there's a guy coming in behind you. We don't want to get tangled up with him. But there's constant conversation and communication between Dale Jr. and Lance McGrew, and with us getting adjustments down, and then us planning how we're going to do the adjustments, implement those adjustments, get him out quick as we can.
Okay. ERV Mary is asking, is it hard when the crew members work for different teams during the week versus the weekend? I know somebody, you know, may work for the 5 team in the shop and then be on the 88 team for the pit crew or something like that.
Yes and no. We have one guy, Kip Wolfmeyer, our rear tire changer on the 88.
Yeah, he was on last week.
Wolfmeyer was, yeah. He's a bona fide nut, but he's a heck of a tire changer. Yeah, he makes a transition well. You know, the thing Mr. Hendrick always reiterates to us, you know, we're 4 cars, 1 team, and if the 2448 needed one of our guys, you know, we'd be happy to send them. If we needed one of theirs for some odd reason, I'm sure they'd be happy to send us. So, you know, we work for Mr. Hendrick and are honored to do so. Mm-hmm. So we'll do whatever we need to do.
Jennifer Rain's asking along the same lines, how many of the 88 pit crew members work full-time for the 88 team? I know, like, can you differentiate between there's guys that just come in to be on the pit crew for race day, some guys work in the shop all week. What's the breakdown?
Yeah, we have, we're just going through, so I'll make sure I cover everybody. Sure. Our front tire changer, Adam Emmert, works on the 5-car setup plate. Okay. Adam came from Roush, been doing this a long time. In fact, I worked with Adam when I was at Petty Enterprises. So he's a full-time employee here. Ben Fishback is a tire carrier on the front. Ben works in the fabrication shop. Mark Jacobs, our jack man, we stole him from Ganassi. So Mark is an outside employee. Mark was an outside contractor with a heavy equipment rental company, and he comes in for our practices, and then he does his thing. Mm-hmm. Our rear tire changer, Kip Wolfmeyer, is an early mechanic on the 5-car. Up until the 5-car goes through tech, you know, he's got a GoDaddy, CarQuest, HendrickCars.com shirt on. And then when the 5-car goes through tech, then he's back with the 88 car. Our rear tire carrier is an outside contractor, runs a landscaping business, Matt Myers. Chris Vasuka is our brake mechanic. You know, he builds brakes for the 88. Our catch can man is Jason Dalrymple, and he hangs bodies for all cars down in our fab shop.
Wow. So a bunch of different backgrounds.
Yeah, there's 3, let's see, there's two outside guys that don't work at our shop, but everybody else is just scattered around. And that's the way Mr. Hendrick, you know, here we go, 4 cars, 1 team. Yeah.
Amy J. Walsh wants to know, how do you train the guys to block out their surroundings on pit road?
Experience. We can have the greatest kid come in and do the pit practice 500 and be a world beater. Yeah. But you start sending 43 other bombers at him on pit road, and he's looking over his shoulder and between his legs and behind his back, and you know, he doesn't know where to run or go to the car. But experience takes care of that. You know, you just can't coach that. You have to go over the wall. You have to do so many live pit stops before you have a comfort level. And then once you achieve that, it's still not a guarantee. You know, you still get nervous. Stop getting nervous, you ought to quit doing it.
Yeah. So with that experience that you're talking about, is there anybody that just comes straight into Cup, you know, on a pit crew, or does everybody, you know, these days start a nationwide or another series and move up?
Rarely. The skilled positions, the 5 guys that actually change the tires. Yeah. We look at, you know, the cream rises to the top, and we follow guys from the truck series to the nationwide series to the lower level Cup teams, and you know, we have a system that we identify young guys that have a lot of talent that could be potential members of our team.
Like a baseball farm system.
Exactly. And here again, you know, do we want an excellent pit crew athlete? But you got to wonder if, you know, you got your shoes on the end of the day, he stole your shoes? No, we won't take him. Mm-hmm. That's just, he doesn't fit Hendrick Motorsports persona. They got to be a good guy, and that's what we keep telling these guys. We get calls, everybody wants to work at Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah. Everybody wants to work for Dale Jr. So we don't have a shortage of people calling us, but we have to be so selective who we let in our circle, because once they get here, we want them to retire from here. Yeah. And we want them for the long haul. So that's kind of the way we do.
Yeah. Another question from Amy Walsh. How do the guys keep cool during the hot summer months on pit road? Is there a way to do that? I mean, some of those races, especially with the sun coming off the pavement, is just crazy.
Honest and truly, our strength and conditioning coach takes care of that. These guys they go through a 7-week heat training cycle that they do all their training outside, and I mean it's tough. A lot of body weight push-ups, sit-ups, a lot of weight training, high rep things, and he pushes these guys to the limit. Once I'm finished with them, I push them to the limit in the pit box, and then he gets his hands on them, and they're pretty quiet in the afternoons, up here. A lot of times we get fussed at by the shop foreman. What'd you do to my guys? He said, I can't get them going. But it pays off on Sundays. They're used to the heat. They're acclimated to it.
Sun VGG wants to know, how much does Lance participate in pit practice, or does he at all?
Yeah, a lot. That's part of our Monday meetings before we meet the team on Tuesday. We get feedback from Lance first thing Monday morning. We either get a thumbs up or a mean look. But and then we meet and we address issues that he sees from being on top of the box and things that he wants us to get better at, and then we give him things that can help him and Dale Jr. get the car in the box better, and the box sizes, pit box sizes, and things like that. So it's constant communication between. Lance is excellent. He's a great I worked for him when he had Vickers in the Busch car. Okay. So we've been together a long time, and if he's got an itch, I know where it itches. Yeah. I know him pretty well.
J. Palm Jr. wants to know, how much does a full fuel can weigh?
80 pounds.
80 pounds.
80 pounds. Yep. And it's live weight. It's not 80 pounds of dead weight that you can hold and it sits still. That gas is sloshing around in the can a little bit. Yeah. But the thing that's made it easier now, there's a probe that fits into the dry brake of the car. It's called a redhead probe, and they seal really well. They had older type probes that had a bellows on them, and I gassed with one of those one time. I think I had more gas on me than I did in the car. Really? They're hard. They were hard, but now it's a lot easier, and that's helped pick the pit stops up too, because there's no leakage at the left rear corner where the tire changer comes around. Right. You don't see them slipping and falling a lot.
Yeah. How much does an empty can weigh? Do you know?
I don't know. Probably 10, 12 pounds maybe.
So that's a ton of that weight is.
Oh yes, fuel. Fuel in the probe and the dry brake.
Let's see. Do you have any backup pit crew members if an injury happens on pit road? What happens? We see that sometimes in the race. Some cart will come by and somebody's gotten hurt. They have to be out for the race. What happens then? Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that when I first came here, I wanted to develop depth, because I've been caught in situations, and the way it used to work way back when, if one of your guys got hurt, you'd go to a team that had fallen out, wrecked, whatever, and then there was a logistics issue. If you didn't fly into the same airport, you had to get them from where you landed to where their car was. So that was one of the big things I wanted to do, is develop depth. And what we've done is partner with JR Motorsports, and they have the non-companion races are a little challenging, but all the companion races, we're using JR's guys, which we're developing into our guys at some point in time to be our backup. So it's a win-win situation. They get work, they get exposed to the way we do things and our techniques and procedures and learn our ways, and we get to evaluate them on Saturday, look at their tapes and videos, so we know what we're getting. It's not an unknown commodity. So how quickly can they go if say you have a tire changer that gets hurt, you have them right there in the pit box, or where are they? Yeah. We call it PDQ, pretty darn quick. Yeah. And we practice that. They're at our practices when we practice during the week, and they're in a support position. They may set a tire over the wall, clear a hose, hand a can over, and then all of a sudden one of our scenarios says, this guy got caught in a porta potty. You got to go, man. Right. So, bam, there they go. But we condition them for that. Does that ever happen? Somebody get caught in the bathroom after a quick stop or something? I'll tell you a funny story. When I was at Petty's, our jack man on the 43 at Texas, it's been years ago. I think it's when Texas first opened. He drives Jeff Gordon's bus now. Okay. He's retired, so he won't mind me telling this. Took off, and had to go. I looked and looked and looked. What happened? It said, all right, next time by the car's coming in. Still hadn't showed up, and here he comes running out of the porta potty. Fire suit torn open, his zipper got stuck. Oh. Yeah, in the porta potty. So he comes back, and I throw some duct tape up the front of him to keep everything from spilling over. Yeah. And he does a pit stop with his fire suit torn open with a stripe of yellow duct tape up the front till we get the pit stop done. Huh. But it does happen, but hopefully not this week in Sonoma. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, we're pretty much out of time. So we appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Stories, and sure, I actually learned a lot myself. So, and it's, you know, I see you guys every week out there, and it's good to know some of the background stuff. So I hope Junior Nation, you guys feel the same about that. Anyway, come back to ampup88.com next week, and we'll have a live chat with the head of the Engine Tuners, who's Scott Maxim. That's at 12:30 a week from today, Wednesday. And make sure you keep coming back throughout the week, too, for those Dale Jr. autograph sweeps and all that stuff.
Hey, ask Scott about his guns.
Oh, is that what we should ask him about?
He's a big weightlifter.
Okay.
In the weight room with us down there. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. He tears stuff up, bends stuff. I always pick at him.
Okay.
Yeah, ask
so
him about the guns.
somebody make a note in the chat right now. Make sure to ask Scott about that next week, all right? Anyway, come back to ampup88.com. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.